I mean, maybe for LNG, just drop the priority volley bear. I think actually now that we see that they're on red side, it is fine. But like the first pick, when you do have those 80 carries open, I think didn't make too much sense.
Well, the volley bear is going to be dropped whether they like it or not. It's banned away here by WE.
I think it's fine because the fact it is a flex on red side does make it a bit hard and confusing to draft, especially in second rotation if they choose not to show it until last pick. And this is what I wanted to see from whoever was going to be on blue side, was just pick up that Ashe first pick. Both of these teams play it so well, and just being such a strong champion here in the LPL.
XX going with the Trundle now that the Volibear's off the table, and Maple going back to the Twisted Fate once again. So rinse and repeat here from LNG. Ooh. This I would love to see. Another aggressive early jungler. Nidalee is something that has been banned a ton on patch 10.13. And it's not necessarily something that I think of when I think of beishang, but I'm sure he's competent. I'm sure he'd be able to play it. But definitely moving towards comfort when it comes to the top lane here is the Renekton locked in for Morgan.
Yeah, and beishang definitely has some options that he could pick into the Trundle. Obviously, he already hovered the Nidalee, and LNG really don't like the Nidalee, despite the fact that XX plays himself. They ban it quite often. You could also go the Kindred into the Trundle matchup, or, you know, even just going back towards the Lee Sin. Sure, it's not that strong early on in the straight-up 1v1, but once you hit the level 6 mark in 2v2s, you have a ton more bursts in Trundle, and we see beishang's all about impacting these lanes.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't even be that surprised to see something like the Olaf come out from beishang. While it doesn't have the greatest 1v1 with the Trundle, we've seen beishang pick up junglers that are much more about the team that he's with rather than the opponent he's against.
Yeah, and definitely them picking a Karma, which I expect to go in the mid lane, though Missing can still play it because he has played it once this split, would make you think he's going to go more towards a carry-oriented jungler. The thing that would be interesting to me here is if they end up going for a Kindred in second rotation, if that doesn't get banned out, since it obviously has a good matchup into the Trundle, and then having this kind of defensive mid laner as well will set you up quite well.
So we do have the Ezreal here from Light. I much prefer this to the Jhin. It has a much better answer for being able to deal damage, especially around the mid game. But the Leona is banned away from Missing here. Not the ban I was particularly expecting, but I guess with a Karma in the mid lane, a tanky support would certainly do WE wonders, so I get the ban.
Yeah, and he did have such a standout performance last game, and for me what LNG are spelling out so far is much more of a true 1-3-1 in the sense of what we've seen historically, of where you have the core 3 in mid lane that play more around poking and disengage because you have the Trundle and as well as the Ezreal, and then having two side lane threats that can, you know, put the pressure as your 3-man core kind of weaves in and out with their disengage.
We get this Quinn ban once more. This time the Renekton's already locked in, so it's nothing to do with baiting LNG. It's just making sure that Morgan isn't going to get crushed in the top lane here.
It also fits the style that LNG have drafted for their
true.
first 3 picks, so I don't know if LNG actually have a great answer for Flandre to go to actually set up a hard 1-3-1 comp. They could go for something like a Jace, which is definitely more of a skill matchup with the Renekton. Obviously should win early on, but gets quite hard at that level 6 mark.
I do think that if they were going to go for a Jace, they probably would have subbed Chen Lun in.
That's true. But at the same time, right, it's not like teams hard specify, like, we're going to go for this certain draft in this game, but still actually ends up going for the Wukong. So now tunneling a lot more towards team fights, which, you know, even though we talk about 1-3-1s with Twisted Fate quite a bit, obviously Twisted Fate can function in front-to-back team fights, still does quite well. You have the gold card, especially once you get the rapid-fire cannon and can just kind of peel for your 80 carry. You also do have a lot of burst in the later stages.
Also really works as a setup to picks as well, which Ezreal pretty good at following up on picks there, and the Wukong certainly can go for these flanks to set up.
Karma support.
It is going to be Karma. Or, I mean, we've seen Missing play Galio support,
yes,
right?
we have.
So it's possible that we still have flex picks here. beishang hover in the set. Please, please don't go for the set jungle again. That is just a personal grudge I have, so you know what? We're going to go with a Lee Sin, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and their comp is really interesting this time around to where they're going to be playing hard for trying to just smash lane and bot, which, you know, Karma's still a very strong option into the Bard. Bard obviously not a very strong laning support, but kind of surprised they didn't go for a more carry-oriented jungler like you talked about. Obviously, Olaf doesn't have a good matchup into the Trundle, but the fact you also do have Galio would be interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, beishang did great in game 2, right? We've seen beishang have essentially carry performances on the Lee Sin before, so...
We even talked about how in the straight-up 2v2 at level 6, obviously Lee Sin does quite well, so it's not too surprising. You also have 3 lanes you can play around once again. Obviously, strong setup in the top side. You have an early winning matchup, a good 2v2 in mid, and bot lane that will just constantly push. You can play around.
And one thing we do have to mention as well, we got a Bard coming through for Iwandy, which is not a pick that he's played in the past. So I guess we'll find out, because there are very good Bards and there are very not good Bards.
I mean, Duan was known for Bard throughout most of his career. I think struggled a bit on it this year, but still, if we have Duan kind of coaching him behind, saying, hey, this is how you play Bard, we can see what Iwandy can do.
We'll have to see if his Bard is going to be up to snuff. We saw Shinmo's Bard yesterday, and it was abhorrent. So fingers crossed we don't have any of those kind of shenanigans today. Instead, we'll have a great performance. And I'm hoping, what I really want here is just an even game between these two teams. Neither team gets a massive snowball on the go, and we get some really great fights in the mid game. Yeah,
and Bard can obviously be really impactful against what WE have set up, because we saw how important Teacherma hitting a lot of his, 2-3 man taunts was, and if Bard can, find a good tempered fate, get Flandre a good position into these fights and set up Light to deal a ton of damage without any threat, that was the recipe for success game one, just with the top Gensh.
We'll see if the Bard can be the answer and the peel that you're talking about, saving key carries during the fights, but also kind of has that answer in the same way that, we're going to see from the Ashe and Jiumeng, is that long-range engage. If you can land a tempered fate at distance, the rest of the team can then close the gap. You can follow up on the picks that Maple can potentially set up, or Maple can follow up on the picks that you can potentially set up. There's a lot of ways to use this Bard, and a lot of different styles available here to LNG.
Yeah, and another interesting thing is the fact that we talked about, hey, they have the Karma and the Ashe, so we expect them to push in the bot lane. So we might be seeing a lot of invades coming out from the side of WE into LNG's bot side jungle. Maybe not really early on. Maybe they do go and give Morgan a luxury gank first, because he is obviously on the Renekton, but...
A luxury gank.
That's
what you get when you go to like a really expensive hotel. You head into solo queue and the concierge comes over, pays the jungler or something.
Something like that, but... What I do mean by that is these ganks that, they don't really change the dynamic of the game at all.
Light is getting chased out late already. Jiumeng is starting as he means to go on here.
Oh, God. He even shows the cute icon. It's mental warfare.
Haha, Star Kitten, what are you going to do now? The Colonel.
This game's even.
He's biased.
Oh. Just so you guys...
That's 3% difference.
You're right. That is hey.
Look, if I'm heading into a coin flip tournament, I'm going to take 53 every time.
I mean, I guess it's 6% difference, but...
that's true, actually, yeah.
At the same time, I do feel like we highly value the Colonel's opinion here on the LPL broadcast. We don't actually do any analysis ourselves.
Yeah.
It is just trying to make sense of what the Colonel thinks.
Which is a controversial way of living your life. Just listening to the head of a fast food chain.
I feel like it's very fitting, at least for, an American as myself, that I feel like heads of fast food chains are kind of like our gods.
Yeah. I'm just like, the guy talks in percentages. He talks about odds. Like, I used to live in Vegas. I can get behind his whole mentality.
But we don't have Nando's in the States.
Oh, Nando's.
Again, there's some, but...
It's too cheeky for the States.
It is.
It's just too cheeky.
If none of you guys have ever had it, it's actually the best chicken franchise in the whole world, and there's no argument to be made otherwise.
Which, hilariously, is South African Portuguese. Iwandy is getting kicked the heck out of the bot lane.
Also, as they obviously just showed, missing is running Airy, so... Just going to be all about whittling down the members of LNG. And I mean, I would expect that Ashe and Karma has a very easy time of hitting turrets up against the bot lane that LNG have drafted. So you would expect for them to start playing for turret plates. And then, as we talked about, especially at the level 6 mark, really play to dive LNG's bot lane. Another interesting to note is that Light has TP in this matchup. So it sets up for a lot of different, I guess both AD carries have TP, so sets up for a lot of different answers and rotations to certain plays that both teams can make.
Yeah, this is the kind of bot lane setup that is like a don't try this at home. Like, you don't need teleport on Ashe if you're playing in solo queue. This is because they want to play as a team and they want to use these global ultimates. This is a very WE thing to teleport Ashe.
Also shows me that they're not going to go, like, at least for LNG side, is they're acknowledging we're not going for this extremely trade-heavy style where we're going to need something like a heal. Like, they acknowledge that they're going to lose out in this straight 2v2 and are just going to try to survive.
So we are going to see beishang moving into the enemy jungle on the bot side, exactly as you predicted, Lyric. Which is, I don't know, it's feeling like a very V5 day here with Lyric just being on point with his predictions. But we'll see if beishang is willing to go for any kind of dives. I feel like it would be a bit risky. With missing on something like a Karma, it's a lot harder to pull off.
Yeah, especially with the fact that both of LNG's bot laners have just hit level 3. Maybe you could have tried to abuse, you know, a level disparity there and look for something. You have the Mantra Shield coming out from missing too. Maybe get beishang through a dive, but I definitely wouldn't like to see one right now.
XX has just arrived on the scene and realized that he's lost his entire jungle. Feels bad, man.
And he's nowhere to go now, right? He's going to recall and is probably just going to have to head back towards the top side where his next camps are going to come up, but realistically doesn't have anything where for beishang, he's going to have a great recall. Can go wherever he wants, can path bot to top, or can do vice versa since his Gromp is still there, and he definitely should know he's a topside camp from seeing XX's CS, and he does, because, you know, he just pinged it.
We could see him go from the Gromp and Wolves, maybe move up, look for that luxury gank you were talking about in the top lane, or just path all the way down and continue to focus on this bottom side of the map. Bear in mind, Dragon's coming up in 30 seconds, so it's perfectly possible with the sheer amount of priority coming out from Jiumeng and missing in the bottom lane, they could just set up for this trade.
And I say this every time we get something like a Karma support and teams never do it is, hey, they drafted this really squishy, very like fragile bot lane matchup. They should want to play around it, at least give it vision so it could take turret plates. We never see that happen for some reason. Typically teams will play to the opposite side of the map, but it does look like WE are going to do this. Thanks, Domo.
Thanks, Domo. You're the best. Well, they haven't set it up just yet. Well, obviously they've got one ward over at the blue buff. They've got the Scuttle Crab for themselves as well.
They have vision, so they can take turret plates pretty freely, and that's what you want when you have a bot lane like this.
That's
and
true.
we see mid and jungle hovering as well.
Also, Maple still not level 6 either, so that Destiny can't come through just yet, so they don't have to worry about the threat from the mid lane roams.
Oh, this is going to be a free dragon, actually, for the side of WE. And you even look at how Morgan Path, right, walks straight from base down the mid lane, just providing that extra security had LNG collapsed and tried to answer this play. But just going to be a free objective for WE overall. And kind of projecting into the future what I expect to happen, I think WE should be able to get this bot lane turn in the next few minutes. Then they'll just rotate their bot lane up the top side and take Herald and then just make a play on top. If Flandre is still here and Enchant Crystal Arrow get a kill, drop Herald top side and just try to snowball this around the map.
It's nice to see that WE are finding an advantage in this game through like macro map-based play as opposed to just brute forcing fights. Because typically, certainly the identity that WE built for themselves was wait for dragons and then force a 5v5, which obviously this composition can still do. But it's good to see that there are multiple strings to their bow now.
Yeah, and also we do see Jiumeng come back with this call, and just going to try to get the maximum amount of gold possible. I don't know why those words mixed together, but they did.
It's just one of those things, though. You know, sometimes your tongue doesn't want to do what you want it to do. beishang wants this Scuttle Crab, and he's not taking no for an answer, but it doesn't matter what kind of answer he wants. XX got it anyway. So beishang has to walk away with his head hung in shame.
Ooh, beishang is still going. Galio ultimate is available. Maple is here. Both. Actually, no. Only Morgan has TP, so could turn into a numbers advantage for WE.
I did say WE aren't just going to force things. They're going to try and play smart around the back, but instead they are going to try and force things. They want this blue buff.
This is a macro play, though, because we said Morgan has TP. I'm actually kind of surprised that WE aren't going to force it harder, but at the same time, I guess not wanting to commit a full TP just for something that could end up like a blue buff, but still, realistically, you would want them playing on the knife's edge, trying to force the fight if they're going to go with a full TP for Morgan.
Yeah, it's more like not necessarily trying to find the fight, but trying to psych LNG out and say, look, we know that you can't fight this. We know we have the numbers advantage. You need to back away. Exactly,
Munchables. Thank you for being a lyric translator.
That's okay. I've always loved songs. So translating lyrics, now I'm here in China, feels like my destiny.
My God. Okay, I can't follow that one up. It was too witty. What are LNG doing on the map? Maple's recalling.
I agree.
Yeah.
He's also got a TP, so very exciting stuff coming through it. You should be a play-by-play.
Yes, he
that
is,
was really good.
Missing, clearing some vision. Jiumeng following up, and we see some pings going down towards Rift Herald. We need to remember, W can always push this wave and start roaming up.
And one random thing that WE did there that's not particularly important, but you know what? Just in case I end up with any of you guys in solo queue, if you're a support and you're clearing a ward with your sweeper and your AD carrier's there, let them last hit the ward because you both get the gold. You literally double the value of killing the ward. If you take it, there's just no point.
Another thing to remember, also nice solo Q tip. Both AD carries have TP, so this fight can go in a bunch of different ways right now. We do see Iwandy going first, which is quite smart for LNG since, as we said, only the AD carries have TP.
I thought Missing was going to follow that. He started moving on the minimap, but he's going to commit to staying on the bottom side. So XX will grab this Rift Herald for himself. And we're just going to see WE say, look, we're already getting the plates. We don't need a Herald. We're just going to take him in the bot lane instead.
And I'm kind of disappointed that WE didn't have Missing roam first. We saw their bot lane had consistent push because I don't feel like they need to lose out on any objective on the map where right now we see, right, they're winning both side lanes, which also does equal out to a winning mid lane matchup since they can constantly hover towards river, which makes it hard for Maple to play. So I feel like LNG got something they really shouldn't have, and now they could look to trade side, acknowledge you're going to lose bot lane turret, and just try and go 5-man top. You know, you have Light, you could even follow up with the TP as well.
But we are just going to see WE. I think their goal right now is just get bot turret plates. That seems like this singular-minded decision here from WE. We've seen so much focus around this bottom side of the jungle from beishang.
You're going to get them regardless. You have Ashe and Karma.
I'm just saying it how I see it, Larry. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not an analyst. That's not my job. So, all right. LNG, if you want me to analyze things here,
okay,
have outplayed WE there.
Hey.
They found their opportunity.
I like this.
They've seen a mistake that WE were making, and they were like, you know what? If you're going to make mistakes, we'll take a free Herald. And there's nothing you can do about it.
It's analysis and it's positivity. That's what we come here for.
This is, wow, what a day. What a day! LNG being proactive around the map in 2 games out of 3.
Maybe gonna look for a gank. They have Pillar to set up for a gold card, or vice versa. They can do it whatever way. They have both options.
This is a dream come true for LNG fans. And there's not many of those, let me tell you.
Oh, God.
I mean, dreams come true, not LNG fans.
I feel like some people in chat should feel attacked.
Yeah. All 2 of them.
Oh, God. He's doubling down.
It only gets worse, boys and girls. Dragon going to be started up by WE here as I swiftly change topics. This will be the 2nd Drake in a row for WE. But XX, he already got 1 Dragon Steel this series. beishang going to be turned golden by the Bard, but they're just going for XX. There's no steal available when the enemy jungler is just going to be annihilated. Smite's still up, and so beishang gets himself a kill and a Dragon.
Let's highlight 2 things. That one, LNG can't really sandwich WE when it's an Ezreal and a Bard on one side, so they don't really want to walk into WE's team comp. And 2, Morgan was already there while Flandre was still walking out from the top lane River Brush, so it wasn't a 5v5 anyway. It was actually a 5v4.
Hang on, Teacherma is getting ganked here by Flandre from the top lane. The taunt isn't going to go anywhere because of the gold card, but he's somehow surviving. Gets the knock-up onto Flandre, 1 more turret shot. But Flandre just gets out. I thought he was going to 1-for-1 that. beishang is here, though, to try and answer for the play. Gets 1 kill for himself. Missing, looking for a root. Maple flashes it, still get root anyway. But there's no follow-up from beishang. The minion wave in the way.
And that's great coming from WE. I want to highlight that Rift Herald is almost going to time out, so XX is going to have to drop this soon. I feel like he doesn't really have enough time to drop it anywhere else other than mid lane.
XX drops it in that mid lane like you were talking about. Nobody's going to be able to get the gold out of this one. beishang, this is not a 1v1 you want to go for. Luckily, Missing is there to give him a shield and save the day here. And they're going to be able to clear this Herald. It does get the 2 plates for XX at the very least.
But Morgan has been a left top side alone this whole time, collecting free waves. Flandre missing out on a bunch. Morgan getting turret plates.
Morgan feels great. And, you know, we always talk about Morgan on this Renekton. And we talk about how he regularly uses the TP to get around the team, but when WE are changing their style and playing this lane-centric game instead, Morgan's quite happy to just sit there and grab some plates.
Joey's having his protein shakes, he's hitting his calorie surplus, the muscles are growing.
The dude is huge!
2 gym sessions a day, cardio in the morning,
oh
lifting at night.
Biceps the size of mountains up in that top lane. And he's a crocodile.
That's true.
I feel like they're pretty muscly anyway.
I don't know if crocodiles even have biceps, but true.
I have no idea about crocodile anatomy, and neither does Flandre, as you can tell, because he's underneath his tower, and that is clearly,
Those 2 things don't go together at all.
That's evidence if I need it to be, okay? Flandre now is in a bit of trouble because Missing is going to fight a route. There's no flash up, and he stayed way too greedily for this one.
Yeah, that was great play by WE, just punishing Flandre.
Should have studied the Crocs.
Yes, he should have, and just going to lead some top-side pressure for the side of WE, and this was a nice play because we didn't actually see what I'm going to describe right now, but me and you were talking before this game started about...
Getting abstracted.
Like Tom Kenster, we saw with Ashe as well, Ashe and Jin, where before it was about this like recall around 10 minutes, you have Ashe go topside, open up with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, get the pick, and then, you know, you win out more on that side of the map. So it's kind of like that play with Missing there as well.
It was kind of like that play, but it wasn't that
Not
play.
really at all, but...
It was like that play.
The theory was there.
Except using different champions in a different way.
And Ashe wasn't a part of it in the least.
So it was League of Legends in the same way.
Hey,
but it was
League
just
of
an
Legends.
entirely different strategy.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I get where you're going. I see where you're going with this one.
But on the opposite side of the map, WE not able to get anything. And we see massive turret plate lead for the side of WE and also 3K gold advantage.
One thing I will say, Lyric, is that we saw game number 1, huge proactivity out of LNG.
Proactivity?
Maple wants to bait me into thinking he's going to do that again, but he's backing away and going back to the mid lane.
I'm sorry, I interrupted
So I'm going to go back to my original point where
Please do.
LNG, we saw one great game where they played proactive. They pretended they were WE. It was like a cosplay game of them being WE for a second. And then the rest of the series now, LNG have gone back to doing nothing.
I do want to say this game was quite hard because winning top lane, winning bot lane, and again, by default, that makes it really hard for Maple to look for plays. It really depends on XX. Maybe we could have argued XX could have played more heavily through a mid-jungle 2v2, but even there against Galio, I feel like it's quite hard. One slip-up could result in both of you dying to Lee Sin burst. So from draft, this game looked hard for LNG.
Well, one thing I will say is they did have influence over the draft.
Yes, they
and
did.
they could have picked other champions.
They do get to pick their champions.
I don't feel particularly bad for them that they are in this situation because of draft when they picked these champions.
And we've said, like, when you're on red side and you end up pretty much with, I'll say 3 losing lanes, you know, 3 in quotation because of how I've described the mid lane dynamic, it's always pretty feels bad, man. Your red side, you should have at least 2 counter picks, but yeah, LNG instead tried to build this composition for the team. We haven't gotten to see the fruits of that labor yet.
Teacherma punches the wall, but he realizes that that's not a fight he can win. Tower goes down, though. That's the second one now in favor of WE. They're going to get themselves a Drake on top of it. And when we're talking about how they'd set the macro up earlier on in the game with some really smart map plays, this one's less about smart map play. Now it's more about the fact that they are just way ahead, and LNG have fallen behind in tempo, they've fallen behind in gold, and they've fallen way behind in Drakes.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to fall even further behind with...
This split push Lee Sin strategy, of course. I should have seen this coming.
Still, nice ultimate by Iwandy does save the turret in the end. Is now going to give them pressure to hover towards mid if they want. We also do see XX wrapping around towards mid. Jiumeng and Missing pushed up quite far.
Light doesn't have any mana to work with. Maybe has enough for 1E, but beishang just moves into the mid lane. XX comes in from the side, and he's going to make sure that Light is okay. So the mid lane tower is going to be defended here from LNG.
It was interesting because both teams had the same idea because they had pressure on different sides of the map, but both trying to use that push advantage to then wrap around and find a kill. Of course, no one on LNG able to follow up XX, so that one was not a very realistic dream.
Hang on. We've got Jiumeng caught out here, flashes out, and Teacherma flies into the play. Flandre suddenly finds himself very much alone. Jiumeng grabs the kill credit on this one.
So, was it Jiumeng caught out, or was Jiumeng making Flandre get caught out?
Jiumeng looking juicy, baiting the monkey in. And once again...
We said braised steaks, Munchable.
Look, this is the thing. He didn't do his alligator training, right? And he's a monkey. He doesn't know about juicy fruits, he only knows about bananas. So then once Jiumeng looks juicy, he's curious. He's trying to figure out what's going on. Gets in there, suddenly there's a Galio.
I don't know how a lot of our conversations devolve into animal conversation, actually.
Because Wukong's in the meta. That's all it takes.
Volley Bear. Renekton in the LPL.
Add that caveat there.
I mean,
whatever Jiumeng plays, because he's an animal.
I mean, I'm surprised you didn't say that for Morgan.
Whatever Morgan plays.
Whatever Victory 5 plays, because they are all sentient. No, not sentient.
I don't know.
Sentient?
I don't think I would
Omniscient beings.
Omnipotent as well. Well, those are 2 words.
Oh,
it's
okay.
okay.
Omniscient works?
Omniscient is still a word.
There we go.
Omniscient. Anyway.
And
moving away.
We see WE actually playing this 1-3-1, but not really, because it's not meant for Teacherma to put up pressure. They're more having him answer the waves that Maple's pushing out and then playing around their strong 2 winning lanes on the opposite side of the map. You would Ooh, Tempered Fate, not going to lead to anything.
XX wants it, but he's going to find an arrow to the face, kick back and take it down here. And LNG suddenly realize that was not the play. And you know what? I asked what kind of bard Iwandy would be. Haha, that ain't the kind of Tempered Fate we wanted here. Flandre pops a clone out, jumps back into the play, and gets winged down by that one. And, well, WE walk away once again.
Yeah, WE probably just going to wait for this, next Drake to come up. I guess they have no other option but to wait at this point, because there's not even a Baron up right now. They're actually pushing into inner turrets at just, 19 minutes, so...
So what's your favorite part of the game been so far, Lyric? I really like the part where WE got the kill just now on XX. That was good.
I liked how they were playing around their bot lane pressure, because I do miss spot lanes like this where you have like a CC AD carry paired up with an not necessarily a mage support, but just some kind of support that can hit turret and allows for these types of plays that we saw where we talked about them playing these early macro plays, invading the jungle quite well, kind of able to play with TP advantage, rotate them around the map. So the whole first 10 minutes of the game was quite fun to watch.
I think my favorite part, was during that first 10 minutes when LNG did the one proactive move that they made this entire game. That was exciting.
They got Rift Herald.
They did.
Yeah, it was
and
cool.
it only cost them 5 plates in the bottom lane.
Yeah. Which, hey,
a worthy trade.
Which they would have lost regardless, because they have Ezreal Bard against Ashe Karma.
That's true. It's not great by
So
LNG.
really only a net positive for LNG.
Unfortunately, 1 net positive does not equal 17 net negatives. And since that point, it's all gone a little bit pear-shaped. Which is, coincidentally, the fruit that Morgan is pretending to be here. Because Teacherma's on the way. There's an arrow onto XX as well, but they might be able to finish Morgan off. And Teacherma suddenly finds himself pretty lonely. Nice little ult there to stop beishang following up onto the play, but he's going in anyway. Maple has to keep himself alive. There's so many stopwatches here, but Flandre still surviving. Maple goes down in the back of the fight, missing. Loses his AD carry now. This is the moment for LNG to turn things around. beishang has a good amount of damage if he wants to go into XX, but the root doesn't connect in the end.
The key thing that LNG realized here was the fact that, hey, WE can't do Baron right now, so let's just commit all 5 members to getting a pick onto Morgan.
Hey, and do you know what? This is the second time in the game. I was kind of being sarcastic earlier, but LNG are being proactive and forcing things when there's an opportunity to do. They're doing a good job of punishing here.
The great thing is that was really the only play that they were able to make. It's just, if Morgan pushes up a bit too far on bot side, if he's by himself, just send all 5 members bot, even if you're not getting pressured through mid. Because, think about it. WE at this point could have even just ignored Morgan and tried to 4-man mid or something like that. Just even start, I guess Dragon's not up outright, but make a play on the opposite side of the map. Still, LNG doing a great job. They do punish Morgan. Now they do have a numbers advantage in this fight. Teacherma in a very awkward area, so they're able to follow up. Maple with a very clean and decisive flash, which then leads to Jiumeng not going down yet, but it's going to go down in a second. Nice job by beishang to find a kill on the end of that, but still, LNG at least putting up a fight, and that's what we want to see. That's how they get back in the game.
You know, all I asked for out of Game 3 was that we get some back-and-forth fights, and maybe we are actually going to see that. I was losing faith in LNG for a bit there, but if they can do that, if they're going to force plays, if they're going to make these team fights happen, I'm down for the rest of this one to see what LNG have up their sleeves. WE now in a position where they could try and threaten the Baron, but Vision's still available for LNG, so not too much of a threat of it for now.
It'd also be pretty dangerous for the fact that their Baron isn't really fast. You do also have, poke elements and, Tempered Fate as well to kind of stall WE, make them take a bunch of free Baron damage for free, throw out Ezreal Qs, and then re-engage with Destiny or just Flandre coming in around the side. So yeah, they're not the best.
Not on the cards. It's not happening.
Could happen because it's WE, but shouldn't happen.
It's not happening.
True, I feel like
telling you.
only Rogue Warriors would probably make a play like that.
Or IG.
Or I guess a top team might, even top esports.
I mean, we saw Top Esports make a pretty controversial Baron play yesterday, and V5 were in the perfect position to punish them for that and win out the series.
A lot of our top teams do go for some pretty
shenaniganistic plays.
Yeah, especially around the Baron, which I think is a good thing because it shows they're willing to try to push the enemies back against the wall. Obviously, it doesn't always work out.
XX trying to clear some vision here. We'll be able to do so. Takes a bit of poke in return for it. beishang would love to contest for this red buff. Goes in, but it's Light that gets it in the end.
I expect
beishang a bit of a love tap on the way out.
WE are just trying to force out Flandre's TP because we do see Morgan is waiting in the wings as well. Ooh, they still don't know he's here either, so he potentially could look for a flank. But it's instead just going to go back and answer the bot side wave. Well, Munchables, we are waiting for Dragon.
Hey,
oh,
it's only 2 minutes away.
Maybe we're not. Flandre has the window. Flandre pushed out the wave last.
He's in the jungle, which is where monkeys like to be. But he's gone back into the river. That's not where monkeys like to be.
Just trading waves on both sides of the map right now.
So let's kind of reset and figure out where we're at in the game here, because we talked about LNG and how this composition that they've drafted for themselves doesn't have many windows available to them. We're getting towards 3 items on Light on this Ezreal. We've hit the 2-item spike here for Maple, where he's got a Lich Bane and he's got a fully stacked Rod of Ages now. At what point do LNG hit some spikes? At what point can they start to abuse them?
I feel like even at this point, they could start fighting WE at these objectives. They are still, you know, they're like item components, not full items, but we've seen this many times these past few days where you don't really have hard set, like easy engage. You have Enchant Crystal Arrow, and I guess Missing's Karma does shore up. The Galio can speed him up, get him to run into the fight, but realistically, if you can peel for Light and he doesn't get locked down, use the pillar to peel for him, even Wukong ult, not necessarily offensively, but defensively, it sets up Light to dish out all this damage, and you can win out the long fight.
And Light, I mean, on something like the Ezreal, we have seen from him in the past as well, like, you know he's going to be able to do that damage. You know his positioning has been really good. Honestly, I think Light has been the standout player of this series for me on the side of LNG. Oh, we got the red buff. Nice.
That was still really dicey where beishang was walking up right while he was ulting, so I got a bit scared for him. I mean, realistically, beishang should be able to one-shot him. He does have the Iceborne Gauntlet, but still. But so this is what we want to see. We want to see LNG play from a range and just kind of abuse the fact that it should be hard for WE to get on top of Light.
It should be difficult for them to get onto Light, but if they can help it, WE would love to ignore Light entirely and just grab this Dragon. LNG now with the pressure on them, because it's spawning in 5 seconds' time. You said now is the time that they can actually start to fight. See if that's going to be the case. Teacherma having to use his Proto Belt just to get away from the skirmish that's starting. Destiny forward, but he's not going to be able to get onto Morgan here on the backside. Jiumeng DPSing on the Dragon here. As LNG step forward to contest, they can't really afford to give Soul over, even if it is just a Cloud Soul. Teacherma would love to get into the fray and get a big taunt. Dominus comes out from Morgan. In goes Teacherma to try and protect his carries and protect him. He does. The Dragon went the way of WE, and the fight is going to follow as well. Light goes down. No free hitting for him as Iwandy goes through the wall. Maple to follow. But there's a slow onto XX, and Flash can't even save you now because there's a volley over the wall. And the taunts come through. WE, they've made it happen. They've got themselves a soul. And with a fight to boot, they're looking towards this Baron.
And overall, Munchables, I don't feel like LNG should be the ones making those aggressive engages like we saw. But great news for WE. Maple is, you know, at least buying a lot of time, giving his team, you know, the good, not recall timers, but good death timers. There we go. But still, ultimately just going to lead to WE getting the Baron.
It's still just going to be him going down in the end. There's pings on towards that bottom wave right now. Teacherma with the Baron could have theoretically TP'd to try and make a play there, but maybe not worth it, even with the long death time on Maple.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just not waste, but let's say use the TP to get one turret, I feel like it's not really too worth it when you have Baron. It could force on multiple sides of that. But here, we see the Wukong go in. We talked about how it's a lot more about peeling for light at this stage and playing from a range. I actually feel like even giving over the soul isn't too big of a deal as long as you are trying to posture and set up a good fight onto not onto LNG, onto WE, you know, get the damage down. They don't go for that. They go for the engage. We see them get punished. Morgan doing a great job finding a way onto light. He goes down, and, you know, at that point, you have no more damage left. Very easy turn to Baron for WE.
Yeah, beishang managed to land the Sonic Wave on light just before he goes for the Arcane Shift over the wall. Means he can just slide on through and finish it off with a flying kick. So now we kind of reset because Flandre actually being forced to use his Cyclone here. Morgan's got himself a 1v1, or I guess a 1v2, but you know what? He might be willing to go for that one anyway. LNG have to back away.
Yeah, now we're going to see WE play out a 3-lane setup. Teacherma is pushing on the bottom half of the map. That bot lane turret's pretty much already down. He has ultimate to follow up. Anyway, he also has TB. So I like this. I like that WE are punishing all 3 sides of the map. LNG don't have a great way to engage anyway. We might see them go for a Tempered Fate play onto the 3-man core in the mid lane, but with XX down and Cyclone still not up, they don't even have that play available to them yet.
Yeah, XX got caught by the arrow. You can see the replay there on your screen at the bottom left, and now the siege begins.
And I love that you use the word siege because obviously the Ashe volleys, all of Karma's abilities, sets up for a very easy time just pushing LNG off these turrets. And look at Morgan on the top side, is now left to kind of do whatever he wants.
And look, not even sieging in the bottom lane. They just brute force this one. LNG acknowledged that there is no way that they can fight at this point in the game. Not while WE have a member strong on them. Morgan has TP. Like, it's very difficult for LNG to find an opportunity now.
No, and I expect them to potentially look for a pick onto Morgan. It won't work out, especially if Morgan's playing respectfully. And right now we see WE playing with 2 men towards topside.
And let's just remember what we talked about a couple of minutes ago, the power spikes coming through for LNG. Well, they're 10,000 gold down now. That conversation is null and void. The power spikes don't really exist anymore. This is all in context of what your opponent has. WE are just so damn far ahead.
And I feel like we've only seen teams like Top Esports really be able to pull off the execution of these certain comps that like want to play around Ezreal's range, disengage fights, and, you know, be able to win out over the long run, as compared to like the WE comp where it's, you know, everyone run in and we just hope for the best. That's why it feels like Top Esports is really one of our only teams that prioritize the Ezreal.
Jiumeng caught up here, but there's a redemption to keep him safe. Look at the support that Jiumeng has. How do you ever kill this guy? The Tempered Fate was great, but there's just nothing they can do.
You have a Galio, Lee Sin, and Karma all sitting on top of you. Great kick coming out from beishang to make sure Flandre can't do anything.
And now Flandre could be the target as he's rooted up by missing, but WE not willing to commit because they can just move up to the top side. They want more towers for themselves. Another inhib tower falls. WE not going to overcommit, though. They don't want the hat-trick inhibitors here. They're just going to recall and spend some gold.
And beishang is just so good. I've wrapped my mind around it many times of, you know, like how I rank players in the LPL and my tier list and stuff like that. And it's always hard to rank jungle, but I always come back to myself questioning, I think beishang's the best jungler in the LPL. I kind of danced around that on the Last Hit podcast. For anyone who doesn't know, we do have an LPL podcast out there. I kept, like, Dagda pointing out, like, you keep almost saying beishang's the best jungler without fully committing. And it's like, we just have such a stacked jungle role in the LPL. But this man is the center point of his team, is the catalyst to get it all done, plays team fights perfectly, peels amazingly as we've seen with these Lee Sin kicks for Jiumeng. It just feels like he does it all. The only thing it feels like he can't do is be put on this tank role, but not necessarily because he can't. It's just that his team relies on him to be such a crucial carry.
And I just want to put that statement in context as well, that we're in the region that has Tian, has Karsa, like Ning has been stepping up to an incredible level again. Wei, yeah. Like, there are so many insane junglers in the LPL. And you know what? As a big fan of WE, I'm going to take it. beishang, best jungler, not just in the LPL, in the world.
I mean, like, we think about it, what can keep WE as always being a top contender when their style is so limited, when it's so obvious what they're going to do? And to me, it is beishang. He's a clear standout in his role.
Easy standout. As, I mean, competition like Tian can't stand up to WE, that's for sure.
Well, Iwandy tried.
He tried his best, and now we're going to go towards this top lane inhibitor. WE can just play this one as slow as they need to. Third inhib goes down, double supers coming through in the lanes now. That's a good amount of damage on towards missing here, but Flandre kicked away once again by beishang. And it means that that massive teamfight ultimate now down.
And Munchables, you pointed out, double supers, but now they do have like 3 lanes of super minions just coming in. So W can play the slow game. They can just sit in front of Elder. If LNG want to come contest, they just wait for the minions to push in their base. If LNG don't come contest, you get an Elder. You now go to the enemy base with all of these super minions. You just end the game.
And you know what? We talk about W having one style, and you talk about, hang on, we got a fight here. XX going to be the one to start things off here. None of the damage is here right now because Jiumeng's on the Elder Drake. Flandre getting on towards the back line. Elder finished off though. Jiumeng still feeling strong. XX goes down. And there's no way to win this fight anymore. Everyone still survived from WE on top of everything else. And the TP's straight towards the base. Not the greatest arrow I've ever seen out of Jiumeng, but it's not going to matter because Morgan is heading everybody off. Dominus on cooldown, but he's still going to be tanky. The sustain from his Q means he gets one as Jiumeng finishes it off. And now on towards light. Flandre finally gets his ult back up, but it's too little, too late from LNG. WE, they win out the fight. Nobody goes down. And they are rewarded with a 2-1 victory over LNG.
And WE are up to 7-3 in series, so still making their way up the table. And once again, we just need to highlight